Hi everyone, good morning. I hope everything is okay. My name is Samanta Alves. I will be the um, how can I say that? The one giving this speech today. Um, so I just want to check on my phone here if everything is okay. If you guys can hear me, can see me, and everything is working fine. So just check. It seems like it is from my phone, but I would appreciate if you guys could give me a sign that everything is working on your end as well. Just make sure. But let's just crack on. And if you guys have any problems, just let me know. I'll be watching the text box, and we'll see what we can do. So again, good morning. Hello, my name is Samanta. As I said, I am a volunteer in the Spiritist Society of Ireland, and I am part of the Irish Spiritist Federation as well. I'm Brazilian. I live in Dublin, in Ireland, and that's where our physical meetings happen, right? So this is a Spirit Society of Ireland, of course. So it is in Ireland that everything happens in person, but we have those virtual meetings as well, which is great. So um, if you are watching us from anywhere in the world, I'll just say that, just so you know where we are. Um, Today, we are going to talk some more about lessons from the Christian Agenda, written by Chico Xavier and dictated by Spirit Andrelis. That's the book. It's a very small book, but full of important content. So today we are going to talk about lesson 23, 27, and 29. Okay. So just checking. Good morning, Stephen. Good morning to you all. So before we start, let's do an initial prayer. You can close your eyes if you want, or you can leave them open. It's up to you. But if you can, just take a deep breath. Let's connect with our superior friends in the spiritual world. Let's raise our thoughts to Jesus, to God, and let's ask our spiritual friends and our mentors to help us this morning, to inspire us to say all the good words, all the right words, to open our ears and our minds, so we can learn all the lessons that they want us to learn today, so we can gradually improve ourselves, gradually but steadily, using all the learnings that we acquire today to become a better person and consequently a better spirit. Let's ask for their help this morning to calm down our hearts and to make us more open to what they want to say, to what they want us to understand, and also to give us the necessary strength and ability to put them in practice during our daily lives. So be it. Okay. So let's start. As I said, today we are going to talk about lesson 23, 27, and 29. So let's start with lesson 23. Lesson 23 is called Realities. The clown, and it says, the clown that you mock is frequently a brave soldier of good cheer. The extremely adorned woman of whom you usually disapprove is on many occasions dressing like that in order to help a great number of working hands. The singer who performs smiling, from whom you often turn away in boredom, in the belief that you are preserving your own virtue, is usually trying to earn bread for many needy relatives and thus deserves consideration and respect. A well-to-do person who appears to you to be lazy and unproductive is perhaps involved in projects that you would never find the animation to tackle. Do not judge others by their appearance. The truth, like the kingdom of God, is never displayed in outward appearances. So, in the book Consoler, oh, I am marked. One second, let me just mark this again. Okay, there we go. Perfect. So, in the book The Consoler by Spirita Manuel and psychographed by Chico Xavier, we find an interesting explanation that says that from judging to discerning, there's always a great distance. That is, that they are two different things. The act of judging that specify a definite result or consequence belongs to the divine authority. However, the right of analyzing is given to all spirits, so that when trying to discern between good and evil, error and truth, we can trace the guidelines for our best path. So, what Spiritism literature teaches us is that everything depends on the intent. Certainly, it's not forbidden to see evil when evil exists. It is actually necessary. It is even inconvenient to see only good everywhere, because such an illusion would hamper progress, would make us make bad choices. The mistake lies in making quick judgments to the detriment of our neighbor, unnecessarily discrediting them in the general opinion. So, in the book The Gospel According to Spiritism by Allan Kardec, chapter 10, item 21, um, we see a text by Saint Louis that was written in Paris in 1860, and it says there's a question here. So it says, are there cases in which it is useful to disclose someone's evil? This question is very delicate, and it is here that one must appeal to charity rightly understood. If a person's imperfections are harmful to that person alone, it would never be useful to disclose them. However, if they might cause harm to others, it is preferable to take into account the interests of the majority against the interests of only one. Depending on the circumstances, unmasking hypocrisy and falsehood may comprise an obligation, because it is better for one person to fall than for several to become his or her victims. In such a case, one must weigh the sum of advantages and disadvantages. So, it is important to know how to evaluate our daily happenings. The ability to discern can protect from situations that put us and others in danger and help us to assess whether we are on the right path. The problem is when we associate this ability to discern with moral judgments of people and we put them in an inferior position. In John chapter 7, verse 24, Jesus says, do not judge by appearance, but judge with the right judgment. And what he meant is that by judging by appearance, we could be wrong because we're not seeing in its entirety. We could be causing people great damage. We often analyze a part and draw conclusions about the whole. So I'll tell you a story to exemplify. So in this story, a doctor rushed into a hospital after being called in for urgent surgery. He answered the call immediately, and as soon as he arrived, he changed and went straight to the operating room. On the way, he found the father of the boy who was going to be operated on walking back and forth, waiting for the doctor. When he saw him, the father shouted, "Why did you take all this time to come? Don't you know that my son's life is in danger? Don't you have the slightest sense of responsibility?" The doctor smiled and replied serenely, "I'm sorry, I wasn't at the hospital, and I came as soon as I got the call. Now I'd like you to calm down so I can do my job too." Calm down! And if your child was inside the operating room, would you also be calm? And if your son died, what would you do? Said the father, visibly agitated. Being in that altered and nervous state will not help anything, not you, not me, and much less your son. I promise you that I'll do my best, or do the best I know how, and within my abilities. It's easy to talk like that when it doesn't concern us, muttered the father through his teeth. After a few hours, the surgery ended, and the doctor left smiling to meet the father. "The surgery was a success. We managed to save your son. If you have any questions, ask the nurse." Without waiting for an answer, the clinician continued on his way, visibly hurriedly. The angry father turned to the nurse and blurted out, "This doctor is really arrogant. Would it cost him a lot to stay here a few more minutes for me to question him about the general condition of my son?" The nurse, a little shaken and almost crying, replied, "The doctor's son died yesterday in a road accident. He was at the funeral when we called him in for your son's surgery. Now that the surgery is over and your son has been saved, the doctor has rushed back to the funeral to pay his last respects to his son." So it is a moving story. And I think we would act with charity and responsibility when analyzing and trying to discern good and evil. In other words, in the face of an uncomfortable situation, we must observe and qualified, or we must observe in a qualified way, with compassion, without judging, without comparing, without interfering, as um, so as not to assume and jump to conclusions. And I would like to end this lesson with this passage from the Gospel according to Spiritism by Allan Kardec, chapter 10, item 19. So the same chapter that I read before, but item 19. And this chapter is called Blessed are the Merciful. So item 19 says, since there's a question, right? Since no one is perfect, does it follow that no one has the right to reprehend one's neighbor? Of course not, since each of you must labor for the progress of all, especially those whose tutelage has been entrusted to you. But you must reprehend others with moderation, with a useful purpose, and not as is usually done, for the pleasure of denigrating them. In this latter instance, criticism is weakness; in the former, it is a duty, which charity commands to be achieved with all the care possible. Moreover, the criticism one casts at others must at the same time be directed at oneself, asking if one does not deserve it more. Again, it's from Saint Louis, and it was written in Paris in 1860. So with that, I conclude lesson 23. Let's go to lesson 27 now. So, lesson 27 is called Difficult Experiences. And it says, physical beauty can bring about unforeseeable tragedies for the soul that lacks discernment. Excessive money is a door to pauperism if the one who possesses it cannot maintain their own balance. Too much comfort is a disadvantage if one does not learn the art of detaching oneself from it. Prominence can be an introduction to a spectacular fall if one does not mature one's reason. Too great an authority spoils the joy of living if the mind does not cultivate a sense of proportion. Too heavy a responsibility can exterminate the existence of one who has as yet not reason above ordinary understanding. An enormous amount of knowledge in the midst of many ignorant, vulgar, and foolish people is a poisonous and bitter fruit if the spirit has not yet become resignated to solitude. I find it interesting that the title of the passage is Difficult Experiences, because the things that are cited here are what we look for in life. So, physical beauty, excessive money, a lot of comfort, prominence, authority, a place of responsibility, such as a higher position at work, an enormous amount of knowledge. So, one would think that this would be great to have. And we actually strive for having these things, we fight for it. And we think that once we have it, all our problems will be sorted. However, what this passage is telling us and making us reflect about is quite the opposite. It is not saying we shouldn't have those things or that these are not worth striving for, but it is showing a different perspective, a more spiritual, less materialist perspective. So it is actually opening our eyes for the dangers involved with it and showing us that having a lot of money, for example, present the same amount of challenge or perhaps even greater amount of challenge as not having any from a spiritual point of view. So you could take it for granted, but having a lot of money comes with the responsibility of making a good use of this money. Like in the Spider-Man movie, with great power comes great responsibility. So it is not because you don't have money or a money problem that you're not being challenged by life. In reality, you are being challenged the same way. Because, for instance, those that don't have money, in, in one hand, don't have to deal with, or actually have to deal with the scarcity, but on the other hand, they are not liable for the use of it and won't fall into the temptations of using it wrongfully. So I believe it comes down to, as incarnated spirits that we are, being able to make use of these blessed advantages or terrestrial advantages the best way possible. Because when we program our incarnation, those advantages are chosen by us or given to us as nothing more than tools of which we become responsible for their best utilization in favor of our own spiritual development. When it comes to the dangers associated with these terrestrial advantages, or to the ways we could fall into the trap of not making good use of them, what the Spiritism literature shows us is that we need to watch for our own bad tendencies, especially pride and selfishness. The exaltation of our personality leads us to consider ourselves above others, judging ourselves with superior rights, resenting whatever in our view constitutes an offense against our rights. So the pride we attach to ourselves naturally makes us selfish. Selfishness and pride are born from a natural feeling, the conservation instinct, All instincts have their reason and their usefulness, since God cannot have done anything useless. He did not create evil. Man is the one who produces it, abusing the gifts of God, the virtue of their free, the, by virtue of their free will. So, contained with fair limits, that feeling is good in itself. It enables self preservation. The exaggeration is what makes it bad and pernicious. The same is true of all passions which we often diverge from their providential aim. Humankind was not created selfish nor proud. God created man simple and ignorant. It is man who becomes selfish and proud, exaggerating the instinct that God has given them for its conservation. In the Genesis by Allan Kardec, chapter 3, item 10, it says, if one were to study all the passions and even all the vices, one could see that they have their origin in the self preservation instinct. This instinct can be found in all its might in the animals and in those primitive humans closest to the animal existence, wherein instinct dominates exclusively. Among them, there is not yet the moral sense as a counterweight. They have not yet awakened to the intellectual life. Conversely, instinct awakens as intelligence develops, because intelligence dominates matter. So very interesting, very interesting. And I'd like to end this lesson with this passage from the Gospel according to Spiritism, chapter 11, item 8. So, chapter 11 is titled Loving One's Neighbor as Oneself. And item 8 is in the part that is called the love. So item 8 says, love summarizes Jesus' doctrine in its entirety because it is the sentiment par excellence. And sentiments are instincts raised to the height of the degree of progress accomplished. At their origin, humans have only instincts, more advanced and corrupted. They have only sensations, more educated and purified. They have sentiments. The exquisite apex of sentiment is love. Not love in the ordinary sense of the term, but that inner sun that condenses and joins at its ardent focal point all superhuman aspirations and revelations. The love replaces the personality with the union of all beings and extinguishes societal misery. Happy are they who, overcoming their human nature, love with a great love their brothers and sisters in suffering. Happy are they who love, for they know the anguish neither of the soul nor of the body. Their feet are light, and they live as though transported outside themselves. When Jesus spoke the divine word love, it made people tremble, and martyrs, filled with hope, descend into the arena. So, a beautiful passage, right? Um, and now we get to our last lesson, which is lesson 29. And lesson 29 says, it's called It is Reasonable to Think on This. And it says, patience is not a colorful stained glass window for you to enjoy in your leisure hours. It is added help when facing obstacles. Serenity is not a garden to be cultivated for your cheerful days. It is a provision of peace for the deceptions along your path. Calmness is not a harmonious violin to accompany your pleasant conversations. It is a substantial asset against possible misunderstandings. Tolerance is not a delicious wine to be enjoyed in your moments of fellowship. It is a valuable door through which you may demonstrate goodwill to your less advanced companions. Real cooperation is not just the easy process of receiving assistance from others. It is a means of helping a friend in need. Confidence is not a nectar to sweeten your moonlight nights. It is a secure refuge for tempestuous hours. Optimism does not constitute ease for your twilight hours. It is a source of power for difficult days. Fortitude is not a rhetorical ornament. It is a reinforcement to your faith. Hope is not the act of kneeling for simple contemplation. It is the energy for the lofty realizations that belong to your spirit. Virtue is not a decorative flower. It is the blessed fruit of your own effort, which you should use and glorify in the appropriate moment. So the title is very compelling, I think. It is reasonable to think on this, it says, right? So then let's try. Here, I think, is a list of virtues we all would like to obtain, at least should from a spiritual point of view, right? However, there are two things at least that this list of sentences made me reflect about. The first one is that we want to have those traits on us, of course. We think that our lives would be perfect if we were patient, calm, confident, full of virtues. But we don't want to work to develop those things. Now, the bad news is that it is not possible to have them without having to work to build them in us. It is like wanting to be fit and slim, but not wanting to exercise. So, those are not traits you simply acquire, as if you would go to the shop and buy some grams of it, or even sometimes kilos of it, depending on how much we need. Yeah, sometimes we need kilos of patience, kilos of tolerance, isn't it? Um, and that brings us to the next thing, which is what would be the value of having those traits if we wouldn't have to use them? As in the sentences we just read, they are not ornaments, they are to be used. And that is the reason why we live in society, I think. Society in general addresses the fact that an individual has rather limited means as an autonomous unit. Man is a social animal. See how everything is interconnected. God is perfect and made everything perfectly in order. So I'm just like a little bit of water. Um, so God created everything in order. There are a lot of theories about society and how it was originated, but without getting into too much detail, we could say that the origin of society is in the outcome of the social instinct of man, or is the outcome of social instinct of man. Force, no doubt, is an important factor in the evolution of society, but it cannot be regarded as the one and the only factor. Several other factors must have entered the composition of early society. It is as much a result of voluntary amalgamation as of force or conquest. In the Spirit's book, there's a whole chapter to explain the law of society, which is chapter 7. Sorry, the Spirit's book. And so it explains the need for social life, the life of isolation and family ties. Unfortunately, we won't have enough time to discuss all of these items, but let's just see question 766, in which Kardec says, is, is societal life natural? And the answer from the Spirits is certainly. God has made humans for living in society. Otherwise, it would have been needless for God to have entered them with the speech and all the other faculties necessary for a life of relationships. So, very clear, I think. Um, Indeed, God or good order in society depends on human virtues. As we become clear, becoming aware of our duties to ourselves, like love of work, sense of responsibility, temperance, emotional control, and our duties to the community as well, of which we are an integral part, like, for example, courtesy, generosity, honesty, loyalty, tolerance, and the list goes on. So fulfilling them minor and make it less frequent. So fulfilling them minor and less frequent will become the conflicts that afflict us. The more stable with the peace will be the peace, and the more delightful the harmony that must reign within us. Therefore, it is like an engine. We need society so we can evolve as humans and spirits by developing virtues. And the society needs us to make them a better place for us to live. So, coming back to the beginning, we should indeed strive to develop and use these virtues, or the virtues we so badly want to achieve, if we want to achieve them, of course, because at the end of the day, it's our choice. But so we need to strive to develop them because they are important, right? So as I said, for ourselves and for the society itself as a whole. And I love that movie called Into the Wild. I think I mentioned a lot of I mentioned the movie in detail in one of my talks in the past, but I would recommend everyone to watch it because it shows just that however full of good principles you are, however much love you have in your heart, it's really useless if we don't share them with people, if we don't put them in use. So I hope these things make sense to you guys, and I hope that it was somewhat useful or helpful. Um, with this, we end our 3 lessons for today, our 3 lessons from the Christian agenda. And again, I'll just show the book in case you guys want to, I don't know, maybe buy the book. Um, and that was basically it from me today. Let me just check if there's any questions. Yeah, no, there aren't any questions. So I just would like to say a few things before we finish. And as always, just to say that if you need to talk to somebody, there are a lot of resources, or even if you want to know more about the situation you're in, if you are facing a difficult situation or anything like that, there is this website, mentalhealthireland.ie, and it's the longest established mental health charity in Ireland. And in the website, you'll find a lot of information about mental health. So they have played a central role in reshaping how the public understand mental health issues. So it's worth checking out. There's also the Irish Council for Psychotherapy, and the website is called psychotherapycouncil.ie. If you need to speak to somebody, there is the Samaritans.org. The number is 1 in Ireland you can use. You can just text 50808 and talk to the people that are prepared to talk to you. The bibliography of today, I basically used Of course, the Christian Agenda, the Gospel According to Spiritism. I used this book by Allan Kardec. I used chapter 10, if I'm not mistaken, items 19 and 21, and also chapter 11, item 8. I also used the Spirits book by Allan Kardec. Here I use part 3, chapter 7, question 766. And I also use the Genesis by Allan Kardec, chapter 3, item 10. Also, the activities of the Spirit Society of Ireland, we have our public meetings in the form of lives for now, every Sunday from 11:15 to around 12:15, 11:15 a.m. to around 12:15 p.m. So watch out for more news. We are going to give more details soon, but we are planning on going back to our in-person meetings on Sundays. So we are going to give details in relation to the location, the right dates and everything. Very soon we have it on our Facebook page and everything. So just watch out this space for more information. We have our talk shows in the form of lives every Tuesday and Thursday at 7:15 p.m. We also have our study groups every Wednesday from 8 to 9 p.m. Now, the study groups, you need to send us if you want to participate, of course, you need to send us an email. We are going to give you all the details because it's not done through Facebook or YouTube or anything like that. We do it via Zoom. So if you want to participate, just send us a message and we are going to send you all the details so you can join the group. We also have our healing sessions every Tuesday at 8:30, and the healing sessions is on YouTube. It's a very short session. It's like 15-20 minutes max. It's just a session where we of course learn a little bit more about spiritism, but we connect with each other and we send good vibrations to each other and to the world. And you probably have our Facebook page if you were here, but our Facebook page is Spiritual Society of Ireland. And if you want to email us, it's spiritismisland@gmail.com. So I think that was all in terms of announcements. And if there aren't any questions, let's do our final prayer. Dear God, dear Jesus, dear spiritual friends, thank you so much for one more morning of learnings. Thank you so much for all your help, not only today, but every single day of our lives. Thank you so much for everything you do for us. Let's thank God for our lives, for the opportunity to be alive. Let's thank our spiritual friends for being with us all the time. And a special thanks to our mentor who has this very challenging task of being with us and helping us. We ask if we humbly can for peace in the world, regardless of who is right or wrong. In every situation where there's confrontation, help us find peace. Help us understand each other. Help us solve our problems in the best way possible, using better tools so we can achieve the 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 aim and the evolution that we need to achieve as a society and as a person, as a civilian, but also as a spirit. So be it. Okay, so thank you so much for being here. Thank you for watching till now and for being with us every week. And I wish you guys a wonderful Sunday and a very good week ahead. Thank you so much again. I'll see you next time. Bye.